Did you know that 95% of people will abandon a book or movie within the first few chapters if it doesn't grab their attention? That's a staggering statistic. And yet, so many stories fail to do this simple thing. But what if I told you there's a way to make your story impossible to put down from the very first sentence? The truth is, storytelling isn't just about what happens, it's about how you make the audience feel. Whether you're crafting a novel, a short story, or even a YouTube script, the rules of great storytelling remain the same. Imagine writing a story so compelling that people can't wait to turn the page or hit next episode. Sounds impossible, right? It's not. In this guide, I'm going to share 6 powerful plot hacks that can transform your story from ordinary to unforgettable. From planting subtle hooks to using emotional tension, these strategies will have your audience hooked before they even know what hit them. Stay with me as we unlock the secrets that great storytellers use to keep us glued to their tales. Let's get started. Chapter 1: The Unseen Hook. Planting curiosity like a pro. Every story needs a hook that grabs attention. But what if I told you the best hooks aren't always in your face? They're subtle, often hidden beneath layers of detail. The key is planting small, intriguing clues that don't give everything away. In Stephen King's On Writing, he talks about the door in the cellar, where you open a door but never show what's behind it, forcing readers to imagine it. It's this subtle technique that makes them keep reading. Hooks don't always have to be action-packed. A simple, unusual observation or mysterious question can do the trick. In fact, a study by the University of California found that stories with questions raised early on keep readers 47% more engaged than those that don't. The mystery grows with each page, and before you know it, your audience can't look away. It's about creating an itch the reader has to scratch. So, rather than reveal the answer immediately, tease it. Let the curiosity build like a slow wave. You don't need to give them everything up front. Let your audience fill in the blanks. Keep them thinking, what's next? It's this sense of wonder that keeps your story impossible to put down. Chapter 2: Twist, Turn, and Tease. Master the art of the unexpected. No great story is without its twists. But don't just throw a twist in for shock value. Make it count. It's about building tension and carefully placing red herrings. In The Art of Fiction, John Gardner explains that a twist should always have a clear setup and payoff. If you do it right, the twist should feel inevitable but unexpected. Take The Sixth Sense, for example. The twist was a game changer because it wasn't just a surprise, it was a revelation that shifted everything. Twists don't always need to be earth-shattering. Sometimes, small shifts in perspective can totally change the dynamics of a story. The trick is to make sure the twist is tied into the emotional stakes. According to screenwriting guru Blake Snyder, a twist should be a game changer. It alters everything, but in a way that makes perfect sense when you look back at it. The goal is to give your audience a wow moment without making them feel tricked. And remember, the twist is nothing without foreshadowing. It's the delicate dance of teasing something, but never giving too much away. Chapter 3: Emotional Highways. Crafting tension with every scene. Tension is the lifeblood of a great story. Without it, your plot falls flat. But here's the thing, you can't just crank up the action. Tension is emotional, not just physical. Every scene in your story should feel like it's building towards something monumental. The late great author Elmore Leonard once said, "I leave out the parts that people skip." That's the power of tension. Every moment should feel important, whether it's a whisper or a scream. One way to create this is through what's called narrative entropy, which means you introduce chaos or uncertainty in a way that builds throughout the story. A study by the University of Southern California found that tension is strongest when a character faces internal conflict, making their emotions feel just as pressing as the plot itself. Take Breaking Bad. The series is built on emotional tension that's often more gripping than the action itself. It's not just what happens, it's how it makes you feel. By intertwining emotional stakes with plot, you'll make every scene count and keep the audience hooked. Remember, great tension doesn't always explode, it simmers. If you're finding these tips helpful, don't forget to subscribe for more storytelling hacks like these. Chapter 4: The Countdown Effect. Making time feel like an enemy. Time is one of the most powerful storytelling tools. The ticking clock creates urgency, and urgency keeps the story moving. It's no coincidence that so many thrillers rely on tight deadlines or imminent danger. Think about 24, where each episode takes place in real time, ratcheting up the tension with every passing minute. Time limits force decisions to become more significant, and your characters are often pushed to their limits. The psychological effect of this is profound. According to research from the University of Oxford, the pressure of time can trigger what's called the fight or flight response, even in fictional characters, making decisions feel more dramatic. A countdown doesn't have to be a literal clock ticking down, either. It could be a fast approaching event, like a storm or a final showdown. The idea is to make your audience feel that things can't stay calm forever. Deadlines heighten every moment, making every choice feel like it could lead to disaster. It's about turning time from a simple tool into an unstoppable force that drives your plot. Chapter 5, The Mirror Strategy. Create characters you can't help but follow. The most memorable characters often feel like reflections of ourselves. Not in an obvious way, but in a deeper, emotional sense. What makes characters so magnetic is when we see pieces of our own desires, fears, and struggles in them. Author Donald Miller calls this the mirror principle, explaining that characters need to embody qualities that the audience can either identify with or aspire to. Take Harry Potter. He's just an ordinary boy at the start, and we see his journey as our own. The secret to making your character irresistible is vulnerability. According to a survey by the Writers Guild of America, characters who show vulnerability have a 63% higher chance of making an emotional impact on audiences. These characters don't have to be perfect, but they should be complex enough to make us care. It's the internal struggle that creates the connection. Your audience needs to see themselves in your character's journey, whether that's overcoming fear, seeking redemption, or finding their place in the world. When they do, the stakes become personal. They won't just watch, they'll root for them, every step of the way. Chapter 6, The Epic Slow Burn. Building momentum in the small moments. Sometimes, the best part of a story isn't the big action scene, it's the small, quiet moments that build up to it. Slow burns might not seem exciting at first, but they're often the most rewarding. Think about the first half of The Godfather. The plot moves at a deliberate pace, but every small interaction has weight, foreshadowing the larger drama to come. A study by the Harvard Business Review found that suspense often builds in micro moments, small exchanges that seem insignificant but eventually come to define the story. It's these moments that give depth to your characters and the plot. The slow burn works because it keeps your audience engaged, not through chaos, but through anticipation. You see, the real tension is built not in what happens, but in what might happen. Every subtle decision made by your characters matters. These small moments pile up, and when the story finally reaches its peak, the payoff feels earned. It's like the difference between waiting for the storm to hit versus being in the middle of it. The wait builds excitement, and when the storm does finally arrive, it's more thrilling than if it had come right away. If you want to dive even deeper into storytelling and uncover more tips to make your story impossible to put down, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Stay tuned for even more storytelling secrets.